All right, we are back again. Got a couple different things I might try painting today. I'm going to start with a background stage from Capcom versus SNK 2. I've already got the basic shape, the outlines that I want to do here. So I'm going to kind of bounce between looking at my Twitch screen and looking at the image. I've got, what page is this? Fighter's Generation up, has a good shot of this. So as usual, first step here is building a palette. This is a very much pink, red, black, and gold. So a lot of dark, some brown in there too. Start with the black. I like to do my palette dark to light, just my personal preference. And then I'll do the mixing in the middle. Brown. I'll put a little light brown next to it. Never know what we're going to need until we get into it. There's a blue spot there, which kind of surprises me. Kind of a blue-green. So let's get the deep green. Actually, we're not going to do it yet. Yeah, let's start with deep green. Not much. No, because it's so much lighter. It's weird because it's a blue-green, but it's light. So that's a trick. A little purple and Prussian blue. Never going to need that much purple in this painting. Put the blue next to the green here. I'm going to put the white to lighten that up a lot. So here's where we're going to get into a lot of color. Got crimson red. We're probably going to need to refill these as we go. As well as vermilion. A fine distinction. And then we'll get our yellows. We've got lemon yellow and yellow ochre. And the paint that we will run out of first, when I need to replace it, will be the white. So go ahead and put that on a couple different smears. All right, so this one is overall a pinkish reddish base. Our standard assortment of brushes here. This is one set plus some hodgepodge. I use the hodgepodge largely for mixing or broad strokes. And the pens if I need specific lines that I can't get with these funky, not so great brushes. So put the Mondo Llama and American Painter. So I think it's 2 from Target and 2 regular, or 1 from Target. No, 2 from Target, 1 from who knows where, and then this whatever random set it is. All right, so dark, dark, light, red from there, gold along the bottom. How do we want to do this? We want to go light to dark, I would suppose, which is going to be tricky from a color standpoint. But we've got, where's our scratch? Where'd my scratch page go? Here we go. Got a scratch page. I can test out colors. I've got a brush. I've got my paper towels. All right, so I think we're ready to start. So we want to go real light. So we're going to get a lot of white, a little red. some water in this to thin it out. That is a very pink. It's a couple shades too dark for what we want here. So we'll get the rest of that first smear of white, and then some. Told you we're going to use a lot of white. That's helping a little bit. Water. Brush is getting loaded up. A little bit better. Yeah, we can start to work with that. So we want light here around for some sun. If anything, I should have started farther out and worked our way in, because it will get lighter as we go, and that's the opposite of the direction we want to go with this. We want it to get darker as the farther we go out. Thankfully, we should be able to just keep building if we need to make it get darker as we go out. So where else can we use a light pink touch just to get things started? We're gonna have some, probably light pink on Buddha to get that lightened up there. All right, I think I'll leave those in there. All right, so let's start to we can go ahead and paint right up over that part because it will get covered by the dark. And how that might even give it a little bit of a glow. Okay. So again, do like a dab will do ya. Increments of sun and shade. This will be a trick for me to learn how to better shade, really, and to blend colors, because I tend to not do a great job of that. It's usually fairly stark lines between one layer and another. The blending is not so great. But this is looking all right. I'm okay with our current level of blend. I'm okay with our current level of things getting, maybe a little bit more red in that. Things getting darker. Right now it looks too much like a bullseye. And that's not the look we want. We want this to be smooth. water on this to actually smooth it out a little bit. But here we go. We're going to go around here. We'll darken this up once we get into each of these areas. Again, I'm not worried about too much of a bleed here because this will cover up with the black as we get into those areas. A little white or a water helps soften. Need some better brush technique there. Maybe that's something I can learn in a legitimate painting class. A little bit of brush control. I do not have a lot of at the moment. Just kind of go willy to the nilly. That's about as far as we want to take the darkness. Come right up against the reclining Buddha. And the tree lines and the clouds. The rest of it's going to get darker back here. So we need a little bit of brown as we go forward. Some more back here underneath. All right, I want to mix a little bit of brown, tone this down. So let's go ahead and clean our brush some. And we'll bring in a little dab of brown. That's acceptable. So that is, I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna come in. Get darker as we get into the trees themselves. That's actually a really good color. I am pleased with that. Might get a little bit darker. Come on, a little bit more brown. A little bit too pink over here. Just roughing out the colors. Again, a lot of these borders can be rougher because they're going to be going over darker areas, things that are shaded much darker browns into some purples and blacks. Fill in some open spots in the trees on both sides. Again, I am okay with mess. Just call me the Marie Kondo of painting because I love mess. There's our first kind of blocking out of those colors. Let's go ahead and hit the ground a bit. So let's clean off this brush. So this is going to be tricky. We want to go for some browns, some golds. There's a little bit of green, just a hint. That goes in with the gold. So how we want to do this? Make a little orangey. I'm going to use a bit of a fatter brush. And let's go for some, go for the ochre. Let's just start with that around the corners, and then we'll build darkness on top of it. Yeah? So it's blue area is gonna trip me out. Take a little bit with the lemon yellow. Let's get a little bit of sun, and we'll turn our brush sideways to get some streaks. So we're getting a little bit of a ground together. Now I'm going to take the yellow ochre, a little bit of the burnt sienna, start to kind of rough out some of the lines. One of the things I enjoy about watercolors is little imprecision is welcome. A little softness in your lines. Not to say I'm not careful. It's just that there's a freedom in knowing that not everything has to be 100%. There's actually some redness in here too, so we'll get some red going. That rock's gonna be dark, so we'll get that. Yeah. All right, so give some shape to that, a little bit of color. That helps identify things a little bit better. I think this would be a good base coat for the reclining Buddha. This will get a darker bit to it as well. Got some blue blacks down here. Blocking that out a little bit. Let's get some darker brown. Some broken pieces back here. Finish that one up a little bit because that's going to be a little bit darker. This actually comes in front. And we got a round post right there. Window. And just toss it in some of the rough shapes. More depth and color will be added as we go. Just laying down a foundation upon which we can build the greater color scheme. If we have time and paint, I may work on some MadBalls after this, but this is probably going to be a fairly, I don't know. You know, it looks complicated, but it's limited in its palette, so could be faster than I'm anticipating. Mix our browns here. push this right up against the back there. That's where we want it to be. A little water on the brush, back into the browns. And again, we don't care if this part gets too dark because we're going to come back in over this with blacks and blues and purples to get a real good shadow. I'm actually kind of enjoying how this one's coming out. So the trick, how do we get the highlights and the darkness? So reddish brown, let's go for it. Get a bit of a dark red and a bit of a lighter red right there. Pick up the brown. That's too much red in that. That balance is way off. Need a lot more of the brown in that equation. That's better. I still probably want to go with a little bit of a finer brush. More brown still. More. That's a little bit better. That someone that I used to know song came on the radio earlier while we were driving to a family event. And I told my wife it reminded me when that song first came out, I totally thought that it was a new Peter Gabriel song. I know it's been years since that song came out, so it's not really terribly relevant to most folks, but just wanted to give you insight into our day. Need brown on that one again. Just go straight into the browns. Brown, red. Keep that space there open. That's where we're going to need some more shading. So this is where I typically start to get worried in a painting, where I'm filling in a lot of space and I'm not really sure am I going down the right path with how I'm doing this. Am I making real bad mistakes or just slightly bad mistakes? All right, now again, this is where the blending is tricky. Get some more white, mix it in with our reddish brown, but let it get a little bit darker this time. I have to come back through with white. Get this in a minute, but we'll get some. We did not care for that. That was too dark and too fat of a line. So let's see how we can recover, yes? But hey, while we're here, let's lean into it for consistency's sake. This one will be darker all around because it's farther in the background, yes? I can work with this. Starting to come together. Let's clean our brush. Let's actually, well, I guess let's go for a little bit of green, huh? That's the green and the blue. So let's just start with the green by itself. This is the finest point we got. I can get a little bit with it. Nope. That is too wet and too sloppy of a line. And we'll come back to you. What do you got? You got some red and brown, don't you? But it will all work out in the end. I am sure of that. The whole idea here is that we got some grass growing in the cracks between these old paving stones, which of course you probably would, unless there's somebody there constantly taking care of that for them. Wish there could be. Filling in, not taking over, not making it too full. Getting a little color depth using a couple different color grades of green, a couple different little bitty shades. we'll get more as move into the black as well. And then we want to put just a hint of green around the edges of the tree, because the rest of it will be too dark. So these little corners, these little outside lines, a little too much of a glob there. We're going to pick up just that last hint of sunlight that they can around the side of the tree as the sun is setting in the west. Just let it naturally blend in. With the browns and the pinks around it. It's coming through. Let's do the same thing on the left-hand side here. Not as prominent though. I'm gonna go, I want to get a thin line there. A little darker on this side, as the statue gives a little bit more shade on that side. So this blue area in the middle, that's a conundrum. We're going to need to go really light blue-green. So, let me get some colors together. I'm going to put a little spot here to blend. You know how we may need to break out our little sub palette just to have more color blending space, because I did separate the reds maybe a bit more than I needed to. It's going to take forever to clean this brush, but we'll get it. And we'll just let that one air out for now. Who do we want to use? You can be a good blending brush because you are cheap junk. Cheap junk from Mondo Llama. Again, I think this was some sort of Target craft kit. All right, we're gonna get water because it's drying up a little bit. This entire thing of white. Put it right there. Just get the whole thing. And then water to bring up green, and get some water on here to bring in the blue. By golly, I believe we can work with this. Yes, we can. Even with the slop brush, we can just kind of shake in left to right, right to left, a little bit of color. Just a little bit. Now it's going to get some darkness there. That's when the black will come in. What do you think? All right, I want to start popping in some, you know what, before I do that, let me put in some more red. Need some red and browns. This will be my official blue mixing brush that's got still blue on the bristles. Basically I want to get some layering of color around the side here. The tops will be lighter, and then there's essentially, and we'll go over this with some shading, but this brush allows us to kind of put in like a brick pattern. Not too close up to the top there. See? All right, so from here, let me get that same thing with more brown. All right. Go ahead and put in some tops of the trees here. Blending this in. Kind of the sloppies that we had before. All right. I know we've got a lot to do still on our friend the Buddha. Let me start popping in some blacks. There we go. I was talking to my wife the other day, and neither one of us were prepared when we first started looking at these things at just how saturated a black you could actually get from, you know, watercolors. I mean, she's like, are you using just like India ink, just, you know, pure black ink? I'm like, no, this is the standard watercolor black. It comes in this El Cheapo set of paints that I am quite happy with. really think that it does acquit itself quite well. For the price. Sometimes looking in the camera actually helps me see how the picture is coming out, because you don't always get a good feel for it while you're painting. So again, we're talking about not always being sure of your plan. That's where we are right now. Not sure exactly how we're going to tie all this together, but going for it, because that's what we do here. We just paint until we have a painting. That's all we can do, right? Paint until you have a painting. Some good fine line ink on here. Going to get a lot darker. We're getting some lines in, so we at least know where things are going to be. Yes. Always feel like, wow, true blacks are some of the last things I do. This framing piece I find very useful. Getting a little bit into Japanese style there as opposed to Thai. Don't need those kind of lines for this one. Though I would love to get, to the point of great wave of Kamigawa stuff. We are not there yet. We are still quite a ways away. shadows and a bit of a line of definition. All right, so we got those lumps. I got a little bit. Like I said, some of the grass will come in, and we'll just do blacks instead of greens for some of that. Okay, kind of clean that brush off a little bit. Give it a little bit of a ledge here. Comes out to that. That's a bit messy. Gotta get some more. Alright, just up to there. Coming along. I am hesitant to get too much into the Buddha yet. I'm afraid of messing that up. I want to be, respectful. While we still got some black on the brush, we'll get some more. Pop that in there with the brown. Some water. This is going to need to be a lot darker, I think. Water and our brown black. I'll dip it down there dry because right now it's still too wet and it's blending when we want it to be a lot darker overall. So we want to bring in dark from the middle to get a little bit lighter as you approach that one edge. Well, now we're Bob Rossing it. Yeah, that little scritch scratch. There's your painting ASMR. The scritch scratch of just smushing it. Bit of a mess. That's our mess. Same thing over here. Let's kind of just paint in a dark patch. Maybe a little bit darker than that for these pieces here. Still going for a mix of the black and brown, not going pure black. Except for like in the, I need to soften that up. That is a mess. We'll come back in with some water and soften that up. Can we soften it up into the shadows over here? Let's see how this turns out. Acceptable. All right, so let's see. Just water it. Nope. Too much water, but that is at least softening some of it. little bit of our blue, a little bit darker spot of it. Didn't need that much. So let's get some blue. Grab a little clumpy clump. And some black. And that'll come up on the front of these bricks here. Hey! What? No, you're not.
Okay.
What do you need the phone for? Oh, you can use Akinator on the computer. So, blue, that's still kind of a little bit blacker with the blue. Still, a little bit more. So tricky. There we go. So we'll just kind of this is not perfect, but so this piece here we actually want that darker smudge. The darker smudge is, you know, of course, a famous painting term. You don't need just a light smudge, you need a darker smudge. So I'm starting to still, again, feel shaky. Get rid of the blue. Come in with a red brown black. Come in with some blue and some light. That side looks okay. I'm gonna get some color over here, then actually get into the darkness and detail around the Buddha, then do some more on the ground, and finish up the spires. So, what I'm gonna do is, I should even just dry brush it. We've got this red-brown already in place with the bricks. Let's go ahead and just come with some actual brown. Tell if that's going to come through or not, but I need to get rid of that big white spot. It's too much. All right, so here is the trick. I'm going to go dark without going opaque. Gotta go dark without going opaque. Darker as we get back to this side though. Still not going 100% dark. A little bit dark at the bottom here. That's fine. That's a bit sloppy. And we do need to go darker. We just want there to be that little rim of light and a hint of the lines. Not even getting the full thing in the screen there. I'm sorry. Gives you a better view there. Or not. Maybe we should go this way. Where the hell's the painting? There we go. That may help. There we go. That's right, folks. We make quality content here at Another Terrible Idea. This one's starting to come out. I don't like this over here. This needs to get a lot darker and a lot more detailed at the same time. But how do you do that, mister? I do not know. Which is what this is all about. Again, I am not painting for the sake of painting. I am painting to learn how to paint. And so when I run into things that I do not know how to do, I consider that kind of a fun little project there. That's a win for us. Want to rough up the trees back here. I'll dry off a little bit. Got a little clump. Have a little bit of brick lines, and then color that in as well. Yeah. How's that coming along? Let's get a little bit, you know what, we need to add some depth. Let's get a little bit of red. Yeah, let's get some red. How's that look? A little bit, just a little bit. A little red to it there. Red to it there. A little. Each of these little areas, huh? Because I'm a dentist. Yes, I'm a dentist. I get off on the pain I inflict. Some malinjustice. Bit there in the water, that's fine. Little darkness in the backgrounds here. Oh, business. I forgot, tonight is a music video drum night, which is one of my favorite nights. Best show on the internet, folks. A welcoming community of entertaining, friendly music lovers. And I love them. Now, my typical thing is I outline. I don't feel that's the right approach with this one. At least not doing it with the blacks. So there's a reflection, there's a blue in that. So how do I make that? Oh, that's not bad. Excuse me. I'm gonna scratch here. Actually, I'm digging that. I am digging that. That brush actually surprisingly well for us. All right, so bronze. How to make a bronze. Haven't a clue. Pick up some white with my yellow. Didn't work out. All right, well, let's go dark. Need a little bit of softness to it. This one I might actually leave a little impressionistic, partially because I like the style and partially because I lack the skill at this point to do it exactly how I would like. So we're gonna see where we land. Of course, we got all sorts of great fighters who would hang out in locales like this. Your Sagats, your Adons, your Joe Higashis. Less so your kings. Even less so your armor kings. Different kings, I know. So if you don't recognize this one, and I probably wouldn't have off jump. This is one from Capcom versus SNK 2, I believe. At least that's what the Reb search for fighting game stages tells me. And if you can't trust the internet, who, my friend, can you trust? Come into the blue-black. A little too dark. That's actually a nice blend. A little bit more brown in it. Buddha's a bit sloppy. My painting, of course, not anyone's religion. I need to come in just some water. Let's get a little wash. You know what, let's do it. Let's soften this up a little bit. That's what are watercolors for? If not imprecision and a little roughness, right? That's the whole idea. Things flow. Watercolors is the Jeet Kune Do of painting. I'm sure anyone who would be watching this video would get that reference, so I'm not going to bother to explain it because it makes sense. It stands on its own. Still need to get shading around the back of the head here to blend in with the black. Gotta get those little bumpy twists in there too. It's looking like a painting. soften that edge up a little bit. You know you got cheekbones, but you don't need to make us all feel bad. So it's kind of a mishmash at the moment. I'm going to soften up a bunch. All right, so I could go very light. Let's try that here so I don't mess up too much if it happens. Bit of a line, huh? Because you can't help yourself. Oh, you almost did it. You almost did it, didn't you? That kind of ruined it. But let's go for consistency at least. Let's soften up that gap. Oof, oof. Get the brown off there. This has got to be pure black, I guess. There, I think that's helping break that up some. That's better. All right, well, that's not exactly what we're going for, but hey, I buy it. We want to put a little bit, you know what? I'm going to do one more thing. One more dopey, you know you're going to screw it all up thing. But let us attempt it nonetheless. pink into it. A little more white into it. Just give it a little bit. Just give it a little bit. I actually kind of like how the white caps on the trees kind of turned out over there. So that's a little more of that. Do we want to put any? Just a little bit. What are you doing? We are fiddling when we should be calling stuff done. Because of course we are. Now this, again, may come at the cost of image continuity, but goddamn, I need to get, there we go. And a little bit more water. There we go. Yep. Getting a little bits around here just to add some of that extra detail. Is it necessary? Probably not. Do we like doing it? Yeah. And again, that is our reason for being here, right? Painting because we like to paint. Not doing it for anybody other than just little old us. Now, how did I do? All right, so let me look. Here's when we did Blanca's stage. I left the borders a lot more rough. That one's different style, of course, but I like it. Yeah, I'm not going to outline it. Let's just call it. It's a bit of a mess, but it is what it is. That is signed. That makes painting number 11. So this will be 12. 11, 12, 13 maybe? Call it 13. Ooh, probably shouldn't do that yet. All right, so there's a painting. That's not bad, eh? Let's put this one aside to dry. Our next one, if we decide to continue with the MadBall series, it's probably going to be another 2-hour painting. I don't know if I have the right colors out, so I don't think I do. This is our sketch of Slobulous. Slobulous would look a lot stylistically like ARG, but greener, maybe a greenie. A lot of detail work. So let's pull up a color so we can actually view what Slobulous is going to look like, huh? Not Slobodan Milosevic, not Slobodana Dalmatia, or Slobberknocker, or Slobodana Bosna. Slobulous. MadBalls. Images. All right, so that is probably the one where I got the primary designs for Le Sketch. That is much simplified over my color scheme, what I'm going to go for. But you know what? Red, yes. Blue, black, yes. Green, I'm not going to need this yellow, but I am going to need some more green. So we'll stick with what we have. And we'll start building out more. Put light green over here. We've got some dark green already in place. White, red, black, purple, green. Okay, so for the most part, we're going to start with a good chunk of green on this boy, aren't we? dark green, then we'll go into some light greens. That's right, it is a 2 painting night. I will probably stop streaming once we do hit 10 o'clock Eastern. As I said, Music Videodrome is on tonight, and I hate to miss it. Let's just go in straight with the green because that's fine. Only every 2 weeks that it's on, so when I miss it, I really notice that I miss it. Let's leave some space. So we want to see some of the lines stay, so we have visibility to where we're going to map some other stuff out. At the same time, we also want there to be a good, with MadBalls like this, variety in the color weight, if you will. Like we want some areas to be light, some areas to be dark. I don't want these guys to be flat. Even if I am starting with just a flat, deep green, I am letting the amount of paint on the brush and the amount of moisture on the brush kind of fluctuate. And we're going to come in with some lighter greens as well. And of course, we're going to come in with some darks, with some blacks and some purples and blues to help go over things and make it a little bit deeper where we need to. Again, if you're not familiar, MadBalls were a toy line from the mid to late 80s. Has been revived a couple of times by artists and collectors and fans. But so far, I am working with just the original series, the original 8. I have painted 3. This will be the 4th. And I have sketched out 1 more. So that's 5 of the 8. I was working on a sketch of Bash Brain. It was like the zombie, apparently, with his, like, his brain sticking out. But I was really not happy with how the sketch was coming out, so I scrapped it and decided to go on and do something else. And I will come back to that when I'm feeling more prepared to do so. As with our last painting, I don't care so much if our lines of dark over dark overlap. The light over, or dark over light, where I'd run into trouble. So I don't care if I get a little green in the hair. That's just fine, because that's going to be black anyway. But I don't want to get it over things like the eyes or the sutures, because I need those to stay light. See, we never ever do nothing nice and easy. We always do it nice and rough. Alright, so we're starting to see the general color shape. I think I just made up the color shape of our boy here. I'm going to need to come in with a smaller brush. To get in them nooks and crannies. Slobulous coming up. Cleaning the brush. Now here's where I'm going to start mixing a little bit. Just to get some variety. And we'll blend these as we go. Because, again, that's one of the things that I want to work on is color control, color blending. Spots can definitely be lighter than the rest. Tricky spot, we want to stay out of the eyeball. Again, we will outline, because that's appropriate for these. So that helps for those spots where I don't want to get right up against a line with color. You can always hit it with a black outline after. Dark, a little light. Be careful there around the lip. There's some good blending in there. I like that. Maybe, and perhaps this is an obvious statement to people who know how to paint. It is easier to blend when that area is still rather wet, as opposed to trying to come back in after it's dried and reapply, re-moisturize it, rehydrate that area to get the paints to slide into one another. See, that's a bit stark, that contrast there. Work around the side of the lip. A little bit dark again. Now I've got that damn someone that I used to know stuck in my head. Doing good at staying away from the sutures too much. His, I don't know if we go, I guess for a gray, more than likely we're going to get. I don't mind having the top of the pimple lighter and have it get darker as it gets back towards the rest of the face, the skin. There we go. Coming together. Got to work around the eye. That's a big spot. Do you want to keep his eye page white? Or do we want to come in with some yellowing? We have done both with different MadBalls. It looks better with the dark green, I think. We can't just rely on it. Get a little water in that. There we go. Well, maybe we could rely on it. Like I said, this is all experimental and fun. It's all in good fun. There we go, getting around those lips. I like the suture work. Specifically, I'm liking the brush control that I'm feeling right now. And liking the color work in those spaces for the most part. Oh, gotta get around the bottom side. So this one is interesting because I'm getting a lot of the darks and the lights are really still too distinct. Damn it. And we'll see if we can blend those together a little bit better. Hello, son.
Are you still live streaming?
I am.
We'll stop.
Collaborate and listen. Bubby back with the brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of him tightly, flows like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will he ever stop? Yo, I don't know. To bed is where he wants to go.
And it's like 9:30.
Yeah.
I think you should stop streaming.
Why?
Because
I'm gonna stay up at least until 10:30 because that's when my music video show comes on. But if you want to sleep, you want to go snuggle up in mommy daddy bed,
sure.
I'll be up there. Well, mommy will probably be up before I show up. All right, so we got some greens. Let's start getting some blacks. I'll give this some definition. I was going to go for that side of the nose, but that's too close to the eyeball, and I'm not ready for that yet. See? That's why I already messed up a nostril. And the nose line is just too big. That's too thick of a line. Not what we were going for. Start doing some hair. Get a little bit around the edges of the ear. Again, typically we don't like to do true outline work until the end. But let's go ahead and start at least getting in the hair. Not too bad. I don't know if you can see the difference in that particular set of lines where I put it in the paint with no additional water. That line came out real straight, real thin. We're not working in that space yet. We'll come back around to that. Painting monsters and silly things. Getting water on your brush and paint, and as you paint, 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 paint for paint, 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 paint for paint, paint for paint, 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 leaving space for, I don't know if it's a bald spot or some exposed brain stuff. I don't know yet. But that's something that's on the toy. And we will want to recreate it somewhat faithfully if we can help it. We want to make these look real good. And you know how fanboy nerds can be if something's not perfect. I've been there. I like to think I've gotten better and gotten past that. Accepting new interpretations, new visions, has their own things. Equal value as their originals. Their own looks, telling their own stories. Right? Especially when it comes to nerd shit. So much nerd shit is, by its very nature, just business shit. Changes are made not, for a creative reason necessarily, but because, that's what's going to make money, or that's because that's where the rights are or aren't. Like at first, I had a bit of a reaction to the show Ms. Marvel. Not for any of the, real assholey reasons that I've seen a ton of those. But just for the, so let's bring this down here and just cover that up. Her power was to be a shapeshifter, to be a stretchy person, that sort of thing. And now she's got light powers. And I was like, well, that's dumb, that's not the character. But then I thought, hey, we just had a bit of Mr. Fantastic, and they're probably going to, save the big stretching for him, just because he's been, one of their legacy characters or what have you. At the same time, I started to come around and say, you know what? If she's going to be a part of this Marvel's lineage with Captain Marvel and I don't know if we're going to get Photon or Spectrum. But, have her having light or energy-based powers and being tied to those characters, that makes sense to me. I'm fine with that. Reasonable storytelling. And I mean that, that the storytelling has reasons for why things happen. But some of those, again, are just business and not purely creative. And then you get things like, oh, she's a mutant now. She's not an Inhuman. Well, that is, multiple layers of corporate, shenanigans. She was an Inhuman, not because people were clamoring for more Inhumans, but because Marvel, had given 20th Century Fox the rights, or they sold the movie rights to the X-Men to Fox. And anytime they would make a character or something that was part of that universe, Fox would automatically get the rights to use that character in any X-Men films that they wanted to. That's part of their universe that they paid for. And Marvel's like, nuh-uh, we are not going to give you anything for free. We want you to fail. And so for a couple of years, the X-Men, as well as the Fantastic Four, were essentially shelved and, put on the back burner and somewhat made persona non grata. But Marvel still needed a way to create new characters with kind of easy backstories, if you will. The whole idea of mutants was, hey, we don't need to keep coming up with big origin stories for mutants if we can just say, hey, they're mutants. That's how they got their powers. And so instead they said, hey, it's just, Terrigen Mist. They got their powers from the Terrigen Mist. They've got some sort of, Inhuman DNA in them. And so therefore, you started to see Inhumans comics that no one asked for. And so when Marvel got the rights back to those characters, to the X-Men, I mean, they were like, hey, there's no reason for us to continue with this Inhuman crap that no one, likes at all. So let's just, go back to the mutants. Especially after the Inhumans show, performed as it did. Not well, if you've forgotten. They said, hey, let's just kind of scratch this from the table and make her a mutant that she probably would have been to begin with if it weren't for license bullshit before. So he's coming along. The lines are a lot thicker than the other MadBalls so far. So we'll see if I let this one be a part of that collection or no. Or if I redo it with a little bit tighter control. Really happy with the sketch. And hey, I was nervous about Skullface when I did him too. So maybe everything will work out just fine. Maybe things will be just fine. Oh, I was wondering, look at my left. I'm like, why is my battery low or lower? I brought the charger and the cord and everything and didn't plug it in. There we go. That makes a difference to your power level when you actually have power. So let's start getting into eyeball country. Come on, give me some water in there. So these are going to need to be darkened up, I can tell already. Maybe not. This is actually a really good, like, Argento red. You know what I mean? That is some horror movie, obviously fake blood, but it, it is attention grabbing. That is a good combination of colors. I am actually quite happy with that. That's pretty dope. I guess I should have erased some of those lines. If we're going to come in here and page white it, let's wait for that. Let's come back around here and hit these lips. Them lips. So with each of these, I've painted just the image itself, and then the background has just been the complementary color. Sorry, I had to get around that fine line there. So with like Skullface being white, cream, what have you, the background was black. With Hornhead being purple, made the background orange. With this guy being predominantly green, probably going to make a nice red background. He's already got strong red in the picture already, so that's going to be, I think it'll work out well. On the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friend. On the road again. I'm going places that I've never been. Seeing things that I may never see again. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. Like a band of gypsies we head down the highway. We're the best of friends, insisting that the world keeps turning our way. And our way is on the road again. So normally, about this time of night, I would be going into the guts of UwatuBot, one of my Twitter bots, my favorite of the two, and definitely the more popular, well received of the two. And I would start manually pushing prompts out, pushing out what if titles. Because that's when I find I can push through a bunch of the junk ones until I get to some really funny ones or some interesting ones, and I will manually say, hey, tweet this. That's also when he tends to get the most interaction from the gang, from the Twitter crowd. Hello, my name is Slobulous, and I'm so fabulous. So he's got red, then black. So let's go ahead and fill in the red on both eyes, and then we'll come around with the black. I need to thin that out. It's a little heavy. Oh. That's one reason I can never be a barber or a tattoo artist. I will be doing something and I will just blurt out, oops. We can fix it. When really I'd have no idea how to fix it. Every now and again I still consider a tattoo, but I never find anything that I really want. You know, nothing that really grabs my attention enough that I would want to have it permanently, literally tattooed into my skin. One funny thing about tattoos that I like, just from a, this is entertaining standpoint, is that the reason tattoos fade over time is because your immune system recognizes the ink as a foreign body and says, this should not be here, and tries to get rid of it. It attacks your tattoo. And it eventually gets, clean through your bloodstream, through your kidneys and such, until at some point you are literally pissing away your tattoo. You're just going to pee it out. And I find that hilarious for, the amount of money people pay for tattoos and stuff to literally piss it away. That, to me, is great. Hello. Is it Slobulous you're looking for? I probably will give him a little bit of a jaundice. At least with the teeth. I don't know. Little cream as a treat. Still have too much pink on there. White. Yellow. White. Alright, so let's start with the teeth. That'll give the red around the eyes a little more time to dry so we can erase some of our guidelines. That one we'll just color in. We'll fix that bit of lip. Again, we go through numbers of revisions and revisits. Most concerned again with that little bit of the circle showing. The rest of it I'm okay with, because we're going to paint those lines in. This doesn't have to be super intense color anyways. We get some hints of color. It should be enough in a lot of places. We'll come back in with some water here in a second. Oh, carelessness will mess you up. Get some water on your brush. Out from your cup. I don't think I'll ever hear the song Ebony and Ivory. Not that you hear that song much anyways. But I don't think I'll ever be able to hear it without the Eddie Murphy, Joe Piscopo, Stevie Wonder, Frank Sinatra version. All right, so let's get some back into some of the black here. Too wet. Yeah, that's risky. Yeah, that is a much sharper, darker line. Much better. Yeah, just around that eye. That's sloppy, that's crisp, that's light, then that's dark. So what is it, a Friday night? This is weird to me, growing up in a different era. But apparently, are both wrestling shows on Friday nights now? You've got AEW and SmackDown? But they still insist upon putting pay-per-views or premium live events on Sundays. If you're worried that you're not going to get an audience on a Saturday, so you put your pay-per-views on Sunday, why move your television from Thursday to Friday? Is that not much the same issue? And like I get that they probably have millions of dollars spent on demographers and other people telling them, oh, this is the ideal time to air your program to capture these particular viewers. And I still say those guys are dumb butts, whose butts are dumb and whose butts stink and they smell their own butts. Yeah, Slobulous is not coming out to the same standards that I set with the other MadBalls thus far. That's distressing, because I want them to all match. Line styles, color, consistency, I guess. So far, he's just not quite the same as the others. But he's got a lot of time to come around. We're going to save that bit because we want to come back around and clear out the white around the eye. I'm going to go green and some purple around the top. Oh, excuse me. Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the mouth. Excuse me. Working around these teeth, because I'm a dentist. And we are painting Monster Boy's teeth. Get some, we'll lighten up and purplify a little bit of gum tissue around these teeth here. I gotta straighten my back there. Getting a little bit stiff. Yeah, I've been painting for what, 3 hours ish? And hunched over the table like this is probably not the best posture for someone with a bad back. All right, I need to get some more precision here. I'm starting to get loosey-goosey on the blacks here. A little bit better. Almost painted over a tooth.